After a standout performance that should have sealed it, Shedeur Sanders didn't get the game ball. No public celebration. No vocal recognition. It was a quiet omission, but fans noticed, and they're not letting it go. Despite leading his team with composure and explosive plays, the silence from his coaching staff was deafening. Sanders has shown the leadership and skill coaches dream of, yet the acknowledgement remains stubbornly withheld. That pattern of muted praise is starting to look a lot like intentional restraint.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Moments like these tell the real story. Sanders is doing more than enough to earn trust, but trust isn't being given. Whether it's Stefanski's cautious schemes or Shanahan's unfamiliarity, the message is the same. Coaches are choosing hesitation over belief. And as long as that continues, Sanders will be forced to prove himself in spite of his team, not because of it. It's a gap that fans are growing increasingly unwilling to accept. It started with a question, straightforward, direct, and long overdue. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? And right there, under the bright lights and soft mumbling of press room tension, you watch Kevin Stefanski and Kyle Shanahan freeze, like they've been caught with their hands in a playbook cookie jar, stammering, dodging, nervous laughter. The kind of responses that don't just avoid the answer, they expose it. Because deep down, everyone knows what's going on. Shedeur Sanders isn't some developmental afterthought. He's not the backup you give a few snaps to late in a blowout. He's the guy, and he's been the guy. The only thing stopping him from stepping fully into that role is the same thing that's plagued NFL coaching for decades: fear dressed up as caution. It's not that Stefanski or Shanahan don't see the talent. You'd have to be blind not to. He's mobile, sharp, composed under pressure, and has already proven, repeatedly, that he can handle the moment. He's made accurate throws under duress, turned busted plays into highlight reels, and led huddles with confidence that veterans twice his age don't always have. So what's the holdup? The answer has nothing to do with talent, and everything to do with trust, or more specifically, the lack of it. You can read it in the body language, hear it in the bland, calculated language during post-game interviews. Stefanski will mumble something about the right timing or the process, while Shanahan shrugs and acts like he hasn't watched film. On a play the rest of the league is game planning for. It's not strategy. It's avoidance. Avoidance of risk. Avoidance of accountability. Avoidance of admitting that maybe, just maybe, they've been holding back someone who should have been leading the team from the... And look at what that's created. You got a quarterback who shows out every time he's given an inch, and instead of giving him a mile, they pull him back. They dial up conservative play calls, run Mac protection, limit his reads, and basically put him in a box labeled, "Do not disturb." The moment he starts to build rhythm, he gets benched or managed into irrelevance. And yet he still makes it work. That's how good he is. He doesn't just survive the limits placed on him. He thrives in spite of them. That alone should tell you everything. And it's telling that the only ones who don't seem to believe in him are the people who are supposed to be in his corner. There's a word for this: mismanagement. Because when you have a player capable of changing games, igniting offenses and shifting momentum, not theoretically but in real time, and you still treat him like a liability, that's not development. That's sabotage. And while Stefanski and Shanahan try to act like it's all part of the plan, the reality is this. Their plan is you got opposing teams like the 49ers visibly adjusting to Shedeur's presence. Defensive coordinators are taking him seriously. Linebackers are on alert when he's on the field. Even rival coaches have started to admit that if he's unleashed, he could be a nightmare to stop. That's not hype, that's respect. Real, earned, league-wide. So how is it that opposing coaches see the threat and his own staff still doesn't? It makes you wonder if this hesitation isn't about him at all. Maybe it's about them. Their egos, their systems, their desperate need for control. Because let's be honest, Shedeur doesn't play safe. He plays to win. He plays creatively, fearlessly, and unpredictably. That kind of quarterback doesn't just follow the script. He rewrites it. And for coaches like Stefanski and Shanahan, that's uncomfortable. Their reputations are built on carefully designed systems, timing routes, scheme perfection. But Shedeur's game isn't about robotic execution. It's about instinct, vision, improvisation. He extends plays. He reads defenses on the fly. He adjusts in real time. And that kind of freedom scares coaches who aren't used to letting go of the wheel. So they reel him back in. They underplay his impact. They minimize his presence. No game balls. No glowing post-game praise. Just more coded language about patience and development. Meanwhile, Shedeur has already developed. What he needs now isn't another padded practice. It's the full reins. This isn't just stifling his progress. It's holding the entire team back. Because let's be honest, the locker room sees it. Players aren't dumb. They know who the real leaders are. They know who makes plays and who plays it safe. And when they see the most dynamic guy on the field being limited by coaching fear, that sends a message. It tells them that performance doesn't matter. That hierarchy trumps hunger. That being bold gets you benched. And that's exactly how you lose a team. It's not just about Shedeur. It's about what kind of culture you're building. One that trusts his talent, or one that controls out of fear. And right now, it's looking like the latter, which is why this isn't just a bad call. It's a missed opportunity. Because Shedeur's not going to sit forever. If the Browns don't wake up, someone else will. Another team, another coach, someone with enough sense to see what's in front of them and act accordingly. And if that happens, if Shedeur gets a real chance elsewhere, watch how quickly the narrative flips. Watch how fast the highlights stack up. Watch how regret sets in like clockwork. The truth is, Shedeur's ceiling isn't just high, it's league-altering. He's part of a new generation of quarterbacks who aren't here to be molded into old-school systems. They're here to redefine them. He moves, he reads, he leads. He's a playmaker, not a placeholder. And keeping him on the sideline because it doesn't fit someone's outdated coaching philosophy, that's not just short-sighted. It's self-destructive. So the question isn't whether Shedeur is ready. He's been ready. The real question is, when will the people holding him back admit they're the problem? Because there's no excuse left. The film is there. The performance is there. The leadership is there. The pressure is building. And the narrative? It's shifting fast. Everyone can see it, except, apparently, the ones making the decisions. And if you're tired of watching this unfold like a slow-motion coaching disaster, let it be known. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Shedeur be starting? Is this coaching hesitation a strategic failure, or just plain fear? Smash that like button if you're ready to see real leadership behind center. Subscribe if you're done with old-school mindsets sabotaging new-school talent. And share this with someone who still thinks playing it safe is a long-term strategy. Because the longer they wait to let Shedeur lead, the more obvious it becomes. They're not protecting him. They're protecting themselves. And the longer they do it, the more damage it causes. Not just to Shedeur Sanders' career trajectory, but to the credibility of the coaching staff itself, too. You think players in that locker room haven't noticed? They see the guy who delivers under pressure, the one who doesn't need training wheels, being treated like he's still in preseason warm-ups. They watch him show up week after week, put in the work, read the field, extend plays, and still get relegated to the sidelines when the game's on the line. And when that kind of pattern becomes obvious, so does the problem, trust, or in this case, the total absence of it. Because if we're being honest, this isn't about Shedeur needing more experience. This isn't about him not knowing the playbook. It's not about protecting him from media pressure or easing him into the system. This is about control. And coaches like Stefanski and Shanahan would rather protect their system than let a star shine in ways they didn't fully architect. They want the game played their way at their tempo, within their comfort zone, even if that means taking the ball out of the hands of someone who's already proven he can handle it. And that's where the cracks begin to show. Because the NFL doesn't wait. The league is a fast-moving machine built on adaptability. Either you evolve or you get outcoached. Either you recognize talent and adjust around it, or you end up getting beat by it. That's what's happening here. Opposing teams are treating Shedeur Sanders like a real threat, like a quarterback who, if unleashed, could alter the direction of a game. That kind of respect isn't handed out lightly. You have to earn it, and he has. But from the Browns sideline, it's like they're the only ones who didn't get the memo. Let's look at the signs. Every time Sanders is given real reps, when the playbook briefly opens up, when the tempo increases, when he's not chained to match protection or short checkdowns, he delivers. He finds holes in the defense. He creates plays when protection breaks down. He makes throws that other young QBs in the league can't make under pressure. And yet when the dust settles, he gets shuffled to the back, quietly, as if nothing happened. No credit, no spotlight, just another week of he's progressing, as if we didn't all just watch him outplay the limitations put on him by the very staff claiming he's not ready. It's subtle, but it's clear. They're uncomfortable with how good he is this early, because that kind of success doesn't fit the script. It doesn't fit the narrative of patient development, of building slowly, of letting the veterans run the show while the young guy watches from behind a clipboard. The old playbook doesn't work when a rookie quarterback is already reading the field like a 10-year pro. And that puts coaches like Stefanski and Shanahan in a bind. Do they admit that the player is outpacing their expectations, and by extension their plan? Or do they keep things quiet, pretend he's still learning, and hope no one notices how much they're underutilizing the most dynamic athlete on their roster? So far, it's been the latter, and it's not going unnoticed, because while Shedeur is being micromanaged into irrelevance, the rest of the league is shifting toward quarterbacks just like him. Guys who can move, extend plays, make decisions on the run. Guys who aren't just pocket statues. Guys who don't just fit the mold, they break it. And that's what makes Sanders dangerous. He doesn't play like the system expects. He plays like the future. And that's exactly why the coaching staff doesn't know what to do with him. They can't package him into a one-size-fits-all offensive plan. He's bigger than that. His instincts are too fast. His reads are too sharp. His command is too strong to be boxed in. But instead of rising to that moment, of building an offense around a talent like this, the staff is doing what too many coaching staffs do when they feel threatened. They play it safe. And playing it safe with a player like Sanders is like putting training wheels on a Ferrari. You want to know why people are frustrated? Why fans are losing their patience? Why the headlines are starting to shift from curiosity to criticism? Because Shedeur has done everything right. He's been composed, humble, focused. He hasn't lashed out, hasn't called out the coaches, hasn't taken to the media with frustrations. He's let his game talk. And still, they're pretending he needs more polish. Let's be honest. If this were just about performance, he'd already be starting. But it's not. It's about comfort. Coaches want a player they can mold, a player who fits neatly within their structure. Shedeur isn't that. He's adaptable, yes, but he's not a puppet. He has his own voice, his own pace, his own presence. And that kind of presence demands respect, not restrictions. That's what makes the situation so painfully transparent. You got a quarterback with the skill set to lead and the mindset to elevate a team, and yet the biggest hurdle in front of him isn't a defensive line. It's the coaching staff's hesitation. And that hesitation? It's already costing them. Momentum, wins, locker room confidence, fan engagement. It's all connected. The longer you keep your most electric players sidelined, the more you lose everything else. Because the truth is, the team feeds off its leader. And the leader is Shedeur, not the safe pick, not the placeholder, not the game manager. The leader is the one with the ball in his hands when the game is on the line. And every time Sanders has been in that position, he's shown exactly why he should never be taken out of it. So what's the next move? If the coaching staff keeps clinging to the idea that development means restriction, they'll lose more than just games. They'll lose the window they had to build something real around a rare talent. They'll lose the confidence of the locker room. They'll lose the respect of a league that's already watching with raised eyebrows. And eventually, they'll lose Sanders himself. Because no elite quarterback sits still forever. There are teams that would build an entire offense around Shedeur tomorrow. Teams that would let him play free, let him lead, let him become the franchise cornerstone he clearly can be. And if the Browns don't do it, someone else will. Then we'll hear the recycled lines, the "we always believed in him" speeches, that he just needed time excuses. But by then, it'll be too late. Because when Shedeur finally gets the full green light, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. So now the spotlight's on the staff. The question's been asked, and the room is dead silent, waiting for the truth. Why won't they let Shedeur Sanders start? At some point, it stops being about development and starts being about deflection. That's exactly what this has turned into. One long, drawn-out exercise in excuse-making. Week after week, press conference after press conference, the coaching staff throws out the same vague lines. He's progressing. We like where he's at. We're building a plan for him. You want to know what that sounds like? Stalling, not strategy. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't some third-string rookie learning how to hold a clipboard. He's a proven leader who's already shown he can move an offense with precision. He's not guessing out there. He's directing. He's diagnosing coverages, moving defenders with his eyes, making next-level throws off-platform while under pressure. And instead of building on that momentum, they're freezing him out. And for what? To preserve some imaginary timetable? To keep a system intact that hasn't produced anything remarkable without him? It's baffling. You got a player who makes your team better, who makes defenses sweat, who demands attention every time he steps on the field. And you respond by scaling him back? You don't even need deep analytics to see what's happening. Just watch the games. Every time he's let loose, you see flashes, no evidence, of a player who's not only ready, but hungry. He's patient when he needs to be, decisive when it counts. You want someone who can execute the boring stuff and still make the spectacular happen? That's Shedeur. And yet, the leash stays tight. This isn't about protecting him anymore. It's about protecting the coaches from accountability. Because the moment they give him full control, when he inevitably succeeds, the questions will start. Why didn't they start him sooner? What were they waiting for? And more importantly, how much damage did they do by delaying the obvious? Because there's always a cost of hesitation. You don't just lose games. You lose rhythm, chemistry, confidence. Every week he's held back is a week wasted. A week where this team could have been finding its identity. Instead, it's a week spent watching a quarterback being overmanaged into invisibility. And if you think the locker room doesn't feel that, you're kidding yourself. Players know who's real. They see who's putting in the work, who's making plays, who's lifting everyone up. You can't hide that kind of leadership. It's obvious. And when coaches don't reward that with opportunity, it breeds resentment. Quiet at first, but it grows. Because when the guy earning the spotlight keeps getting sidelined, it sends the worst message possible. Talent doesn't matter here. What matters is politics. Hierarchy. Playing it safe. And playing it safe is exactly what's going to get these coaches left behind. Because this league is shifting fast. The new generation of quarterbacks doesn't sit around and wait for permission. They take over. They adjust. They improvise. They lead, even when the play breaks down. And if you're not adapting to that, you're not just old school, you're obsolete. Shedeur Sanders is that new era. And instead of being embraced, he's being benched behind outdated philosophies. You can already feel the pressure building. The media's asking louder questions. The fans are getting more direct. And the longer Stefanski and Shanahan dodge, the worse it looks. Because let's be real. When a coach starts pretending they haven't watched much of the guy everyone else is worried about, that's not strategy. That's deflection. That's protecting your pride. And pride is a terrible substitute for progress. These are the moments that define leadership. Do you stick with what's comfortable? Or do you evolve with the game? Do you bet on a system? Or do you bet on your players? So far, it seems these coaches are betting on structure, on old blueprints, on the idea that if they just wait long enough, the right time will magically arrive. But it won't, because Shedeur's time isn't in the future. It's now. He's not developing, he's waiting. He's ready, and every week you ignore that. The backlash gets worse, not because of hype, not because of emotion, but because of results. Because the guy they refuse to start has already done more with fewer opportunities than some starters have with full control. And let's not forget, this isn't just about Cleveland anymore. The league is watching. Other franchises are taking notes. If the Browns keep mismanaging this, someone else will be more than happy to step in, hand Shedeur the keys, and let it become what he's destined to be, a star. And then what? Then the headlines shift. From confusion to condemnation. From why isn't he starting to how did they let this guy go? The narrative flips, and the only ones left answering for it are the ones who stalled. You want to talk long-term damage? This is it. This is how you lose a franchise quarterback. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because you were too slow to trust him, too scared to change, too committed to comfort. And once that damage is done, it's hard to undo. You can't rebuild trust overnight. Not with a player, not with a fan base, not with a locker room that watched it all unfold. This isn't just a coaching mistake. It's a cultural failure, a complete misread of the moment, a refusal to recognize that sometimes the right choice is the uncomfortable one, that real leadership isn't about control, it's about trust. And Shedeur Sanders has earned that trust. He's earned the right to lead, to make mistakes, to take ownership of this team. He's not some reckless wild card. They're not benching him to protect him from himself. They're benching him to protect themselves from being proven wrong. And that right there's the core issue. The fear of being wrong is holding everything back. So here we are, a quarterback who's ready, a team that needs a spark, a fan base that's running out of patience, and a coaching staff that's stuck in neutral, while everyone else is flooring it into the future. There's no more room for excuses. No more time to hide behind press conference platitudes and empty words about development. Development ends when the player starts outperforming the plan. That's where we're at. Now it's just a question of when, not if, the staff stops resisting the obvious. Because if they don't, someone else will. And if you're watching this wondering how much longer they can keep this going, how much longer they can pretend not to see what the rest of us already know, let us know in the comments. Should Shedeur be starting right now? Is the coaching hesitation a strategic failure, or just plain fear? Hit the like button if you're tired of potential being buried under bad management. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns that cut through the noise, and say what everyone else is thinking. And share this with someone who's still pretending the plan is working. Because the truth is clear, Shedeur Sanders isn't waiting anymore. And the Browns? They're running out of time.